Welcome to episode 114 of the Loane Hockey Podcast, where today we're going to be talking about, once again, James Hagens, and we're going to be talking about his start to the season with BC thus far. And he's obviously the projected first overall pick in the 2025 NHL draft, and he looks like a very dynamic player, and he's off to a really good start with BC thus far. And BC, they still have a lot of returning players. They have a lot of good returners on their decor and up front and including guys like Gabe Perreault and having Ryan Leonard and then having Hagens in the mix. And then you have some other NHL drafted players who fit that mold as well. BC is still a really good team. And Hagens has really adapted to their system thus far. And he's fit in seamlessly as a center. And he looks like a guy that has been controlling pace, controlling play. And early on the season, he looks like a play driver, which is really good to see out of him, especially playing college and being able to play against older players. We saw it last year with Celebrini, how the transition to college was almost seamless and how he's able to adapt right away and rack up points right out of the gate. So with Hagens, it's a little bit different of a story because in terms of his game compared to Celebrini's, I would say Hagens is more dynamic in terms of puck skill and how he's able to use his speed. But at the same time, they're very similar players in how they use their style of play and how they control the pace of play, how they use their speed, how they're able to get around guys. Celebrini is a little bit more complete, and he was a little bit more complete last year than Hagens was. But at the same time, Hagens is still a very dynamic center, a very dynamic threat as a playmaker. And I've mentioned this before in terms of style comps for him, but Jack Hughes is the biggest standout comparison for him by far in my eyes because how they control play, how they control the puck in a variety of different ways and how they're able to manage the puck in the ozone and being able to extend possession is really reminiscent of one another. And Hagens, especially in terms of his ability to hold the wall and be able to extend plays along the perimeter of the ozone, how he's able to use his hip pocket for puck handling, how he's able to use deception in his puck skill and his playmaking, and how he can really manipulate guys through traffic one on one and being able to get around pressure so easily using his feet and also his hands at the same time. And Hagens is dynamic all across the board, and same with Hughes. And Hughes at the same age, I would say a little bit more advanced, but at the same time, Hagens was playing college and Hughes was playing with the NTDP 18s. So a little bit different there. And at the same time, Hagens is a guy who is going to continue to get better throughout the season. It's going to be interesting to see how many points he racks up. And I know points aren't necessarily the be all end all when it comes to these type of players, but especially when it comes to a guy like Hagens, who's projected to go first overall, they do matter in some sense because the team that's picking them, they're going to want a productive player and they're going to want an elite player. So the points do matter in some ways, but not the be all end all, like I said before. And with Hagens, he's a guy who very well looks like he can hit around 60 points, if not more, with BC this year, especially with the line mates he's playing with. If he's able to maintain his role and be able to be a top line guy night in, night out. And if BC does go further on, then they might have a really good chance of being able to get to the Frozen Four and beyond that point once again. So it'll be interesting to see that. But with Hagens, I noticed him. I'm trying to think of other little things that really stand out to his into his game because it feels like with every first overall pick every single year, there's always going to be standout qualities. Otherwise, why would they go first overall? But with Hagens, I've noticed, especially over the course of the last few years, I've really noticed his goal scoring evolve. And when he was playing with Mount St. Charles and he's coming up through there and coming up through Bantam, coming up through Midget, and then with the NCDP, I noticed him more as a playmaker and as a pass first player, but now I've really started to notice the actual goal scoring ability in his game more and how he can create goals off the rush with his puck handling, but also at the same time be able to actually use his shot from range. And when he was a younger player, he wasn't necessarily the type of player that would want to shoot from range because he knew that he didn't have the toolkit to be able to shoot from range right away versus now he's not afraid to shoot off entries or shoot off the pass or stuff like that. He's not afraid to take one-time chances and one-timers and being able to leverage that. And especially on the power play, and his shot first mentality has really evolved there. And just his playmaking and his goal scoring off the rush and his goal scoring and how he can generate off the rush in terms of speed and also skill and finesse. And that's something I've really seen evolve in him over the course of the last few years. And with BC thus far, I've seen a lot more shot volume generated through him. And that's a really good sign to see because that's a good upside showing in terms of how he could translate to the next level because he's not only generating playmaking volume, but he's generating shot volume. And he's going to learn over time how to adapt and how to create shots from interior. But at the same time, he's been very much a threat in every single facet of the game. And he's going to work on becoming a more complete player throughout the season. That's still a work in progress, and it's going to take time for him to be able to utilize that. However, at the same time, he's a guy that is very complete in terms of his offense and how he can provide structure on that end of the rink. And he's very technical and very tactically advanced and really gifted in terms of his overall skill set as well.